And we just saw a connection to the Excel Web Access web part from just one of the standard web parts, the text filter. But you can also make connections from some of our other RT web parts. And they're very good connections. For example, within the RT table, time series, or values web parts, you can make a connection such that when you look at or click on a row within any of those web parts, we will pass that tag name over to the Excel Web Access. So for example, as you can see, I'm currently looking at CDT158. If I click right here, it's going to go ahead and send the tag name over to that named range. So that's a connection that's done from one of these, in this case the RT values web part. So that's kind of nice to have. You can simply click and get whatever you want in terms of the web access web part. Now, in addition, you can take things from our module database that are exposed by the RtTreeView web part and send that over to the Excel Web Access. So, for example, we're currently looking at Unit B, and here's an RtTreeView web part that's showing me Unit A, B, and C from the module database. When I click on Unit A, as you can see, we pass that unit over here, and everything as a consequence on the spreadsheet changes, because the tag changes, the data we see over here, it all changes because this is module relative. And of course, in addition, we can make connections using start time and end time from the RtTimeRange. So we're currently looking at 2 hours. As you can see, this is the 2-hour period right down here, 1400 to 1600. If I were to change this, let's make this 4 hours and go ahead and apply. Again, using the connection, we can see this has now gone to 4 hours instead of 2 hours. We can see the change right there. Now, this increased functionality is very powerful. And of course, when you're talking about computers, generally when you hear the word powerful, it often is a kind of a warning that it also means extremely difficult to configure, and this is no different. Actually, I'm being facetious. It's not that difficult to configure, but there are some tricks. There's some tricks that can be stumbling blocks when you're trying to get this set up for the first time. I'll give you an example. Let's go back to this right here. This, if you recall, I was saying when you click here, it's going to go ahead and send that over. Well, it sends over the whatever the provider has been configured to send over, and by default what it will send over is something called the data set. This data set here is actually a combination server name and tag name, and if I were to simply send that over, unless I've configured the spreadsheet to receive it properly and perhaps filter it using Excel functions, and it's simply going to fail. It's going to dump that kind of a string into here, which will not work. So if you go into the connections section here, choose send filter data to that Excel Web Access, you notice when you specify that, this is where you identify the destination. That's pretty straightforward. We're going to send that the information from that provider over to the destination called tag name. That's a named range on the Excel Web Access. So within the configuration of that connection, that's where we specify the destination. What it is that we actually send is configured elsewhere, and that is configured in the definition for that web part. So if I choose RT Values, Edit, Modify Shared Web Part, that's where I actually configure what it is that I'm going to send. So if I scroll down here, you will notice one of the options here is filter values. And what this does, what this filter values options does, is it gives you a choice of what it is that you will effectively send if you are connecting to another web part and using this as a filter. Now, I've specified that I'm going to send the tag name, but as you can see, there are many different things that you can send. Now, the default is this right here, data set. Watch what happens if you accept the default. This is where I was saying it's complex because it's one of those deceptively complex things. You initially do the connection. You get the connection correct by setting up edit connections. have it go to the Excel web access. You specify the proper destination. It's going to that particular field. But watch what happens if you've done it like that. When you make the change, we send it, but we're sending exactly what you told us to send, which is the data set. See this OSIsoft CDM 158. It's not a problem if your spreadsheet is configured to receive it correctly. But in this case, it's not. And typically it won't be. Typically within the spreadsheet we're using just a simple tag name. So that's what I mean by it can be complex here. So just make sure that when you set up this connection in the filter section, you specify the right thing to send. In this case, that would be the tag name. So here's before and after. I now am sending the correct thing, and as a result, now we're sending just the tag name. Now, in our next videos, we're going to take a look at a couple of other things that are a little bit more complex than you might guess when you first configure them.